Hello and welcome to Rise Unwind. My name is Dan. You know, each and every week we talk to people from across the country about things you could do in your neighborhood. It's 2026 and we're launching off a new year with a good start. So what's on the show? We got this.
They went above and beyond in regard to branding and being a sponsor.
Fans enjoyed a pregame bean bash, and during the game, fans sported Bush's beans all over bucket hats, turning the stadium into a literal bowl of beans.
You know, I wanted Millie, you know, the character of Millie, which is played by Sydney Sweeney, to come into this world that just on the outside looks like the perfect situation.
And it's a company that I started with my wife in our garage, of all places. And our desk was a picnic table. And I made wine inside another person's winery for over 5 years.
All of that and more right here on that show we like to call Rise and Unwind. Do you ever wonder how someone so monstrous hid in plain sight for so long? Peacock's new limited series Devil in Disguise, John Wayne Gacy, peels back the layers of the crimes and centers on the lives that were forever changed. So joining us is the star of the series, Michael Chernus, who takes on the role of Gacy with a careful human lens. Welcome to the show, Michael. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I want to thank you for being here. What drew you to this role, and how did you approach portraying Gacy without doing the thing where a lot of them do, like glorify him?
This is a great question, and thank you for saying that. I was hesitant at first, to be honest. I didn't know if I wanted to tie my name to his name for the rest of all time, and I didn't know what I could bring to this story that hadn't already been done before. The story's been covered ad nauseum since 1978. But when I talked to Patrick McManus, our showrunner and executive producer, he told me this idea of focusing on the victims and their families, and that we'd have these like short stories in every episode where you would meet some of his victims before they ever crossed paths with John Gacy. And that was really intriguing to me. And he also told me that we weren't going to see any murder on screen, and that he really wasn't interested in showing the killer clown persona that we all know so well. And so for me, that was really interesting and intriguing because, like you said, I could just focus on the man and who he was, and not sensationalize him or certainly not glorify him, but really just to show him as he was, so that maybe we could begin to understand why he did what he did. And one of the things I discovered was that he was just hiding in plain sight. He was a real kind of just a regular guy, a blue-collar suburban Chicago contractor, and nothing that sort of spectacular, interesting about him. He was just kind of blended into normal society, which to me is actually much more terrifying than some, mustache twirling villain character.
And the show highlights missed opportunities and systemic failures. What did you learn about how this went unchecked for so long?
That was one of the most disturbing things doing the research, was seeing the systemic failures and institutional bias that allowed Gacy to get away with this for so long. A lot of his victims were young men who either came from, poor families, backgrounds that the police didn't seem to care about. They wrote them off as runaways. Some of them had drug problems. Some of them were sex workers. Some of them were homosexual. And so often the police would just kind of look the other way. Gacy's name was brought to the Chicago PD a number of times. And they would interview him, and he would often say, "Oh yeah, I met that kid, but the encounter we had was completely consensual. The sex was consensual, and I don't know where he is, or I drove him back to work, and I don't know where he went from there." And so the cops kind of turn the other cheek a lot of the time. And another piece of it is that the technology now is so much better. Back then, police departments didn't speak to each other the way they do now. John Gacy had been arrested in 1968 in Iowa, but when he got released and moved to Chicago, the Chicago PD had no record of that prior felony.
And as an actor stepping into a role who did something so heinous in real life, how do you explore creating that character for yourself without either going too deep into it or make it too much of a parody?
Yeah, very carefully is how you explore it. It's really tricky stuff. One of the things I discovered about Gacy was just that he wore these different masks all the time. That he said it himself. There were these different versions of John. There was John the contractor, John the politician, John the family man. And so I started to realize in scenes I didn't have to play the entire human being all at once. I didn't have to show all of the darkness. I was just playing the version of him in that scene that he wanted you to see, you being whoever was in front of him. And so he really was a master manipulator, in my opinion, and he was a chameleon. And so he could kind of be whoever he felt like you needed him to be in that moment. And as an actor, that was a great gift because I didn't have to show the darkness all the time. But it was tough. It was tough not to take it home with me at the end of the day.
Michael Chernus, I want to thank you for joining me today. All 8 episodes of Devil in Disguise, John Wayne Gacy are streaming now on Peacock. Open up the Peacock app or visit peacocktv.com and search Devil in Disguise, John Wayne Gacy. Michael, thanks for joining me, my friend.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Do you ever notice how hosting at home keeps changing every year? From what people are serving to how they're bringing guests together, entertaining looks a little different as we head into 2026. So joining us today is Joseph Carr, founder of Cellars. He's here with the biggest at-home entertainment trends we're seeing for the year ahead. Welcome to the show, Joseph. How are you, my friend?
I am fantastic. Thank you. It's great to be here.
And thanks for being here. As we're kicking off 2026, what are some of the entertaining trends that you're seeing people lean into this year?
Well, 2026, guess what? That's America's 250th anniversary. And that's going to be amazing. There's going to be lots of events, lots of parties, lots of things, and people are going to want to try American wines. And Cellars is now considered one of America's most beloved wine brand. And it's a company that I started with my wife in our garage of all places. And our desk was a picnic table. And I made wine inside another person's winery for over 5 years. It's the American dream. It embodies that story and that journey. And 2026 is going to be about entertaining.
So are you noticing any changes when it comes to like beverage choices or drink options at gatherings?
Yeah, well, it's January. So dry January is a trend that's out there right now. People are kind of, stepping on the brakes, coming off of holidays. And we recognized that a couple of years ago. And we actually have a winery in Italy, north of Venice, where we make Cellars Prosecco. And we thought, hey, why don't we try to make an NA sparkling wine? And we did. And it is fantastic. It tastes just like our regular Prosecco. And that's a trend where people are, they'll try it alone or they'll make mocktails out of it. And that's something, especially among young people, is a big trend, and we recognize that. We're involved with it.
Honestly, I'm there. I've been trying to reduce my alcohol intake, and that sounds wonderful. So beyond food and drinks, what other shifts are you seeing in how people are hosting and entertaining at home?
Well, let me put it this way. When you're a wine producer, you become very popular. So I entertain a lot. And the one thing that I realized is, you got to make it easy. You got to make it fun. Forget the 10 course tasting menu. Put together a charcuterie board. Put together a buffet. Have a wine station. I'll put out different types of wine because Cellars makes Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot. Pinot Noir is great for a holiday or an event. We make a new wine called Sea Swept, which is a blend of Sauvignon Blanc and Pinot Grigio, and that is just amazing at parties. We're doing spritzes this year because we have Prosecco, NA, and we're coming out with a new sparkling wine called Sea Swept Sparkling out of Northern California. And that's going to be that's going to be my daytime drink. Okay. And that's what I'm going to take to the beach.
I love that. All right. Sea Swept. I kind of also like this idea of getting to know the people around you a little more than trying to show off how well you know the wine. I like that. It's a good way to go. So if viewers want to learn more, where is the best place to go?
Okay, we'll go on joshcellars.com. Check out our Instagram feed. It's really cool. Lots of young and fun things going on there. You can also go on YouTube. I've had about 10 million views on YouTube when it talks about the story, the journey, about my dad, Josh, and these handcrafted wines that we make. And we're celebrating America's 250th anniversary.
Joseph Carr, I want to thank you for joining me today and sharing your wine with us a little bit.
You got it. Thank you.
You ever wonder what it takes to turn a quiet stretch of countryside into a one-of-a-kind escape? That's exactly what Matt Baumgartner did at June Farms, a 120-acre retreat in New York's Hudson Valley, where animals, weddings, and big personalities all pretty much come together. It's a setting for a new unscripted series on Prime Video capturing the beauty, the mayhem, and the heart behind farm life. Matt joins us now from New York to share what it's really like. Welcome to the show, Matt. How are you, my friend?
Hi, Dan. Pleasure to meet you. Thanks for having me.
All right, can you take us back to the beginning? How did this idea of June Farms actually come to life?
So I had been in the restaurant world my whole life, and I thought it'd be a good idea to raise beef and pork for the restaurants that I had. I bought 120 acres, bought some cows, bought some pigs, and then quickly realized, like within a year, I didn't like the harvesting of the animals, and then decided to turn the farm into a place that people can then come visit. And then we built some cabins. We started doing weddings. So the place is really it's like an agritourism farm where you just show up, you can walk around. It's a beautiful, the nature of it all is very beautiful, and the animals are really happy. It's just a feel-good property that people can come visit and again have their weddings at.
And the series that you have gives viewers a front row seat of the ups, the downs, and the day-to-day life of running a farm.
Correct.
What moment surprised you once the cameras did start rolling?
I mean, I've never been on a reality show before, so that is a lot. I guess I was most surprised by how much I'm probably speaking for the other staff members, of how much we connected with the camera crew and the production side of it. I mean, it was really unexpected. And, the day they left, there was like 50 or 75 people that walked away, and it felt like my family was leaving. We all became so close. That was really a wonderful thing that I didn't see coming. And then, I guess the other side would just be how the nerves of knowing that the world was going to see the behind the scenes of the venues side of weddings was very nerve-wracking to me. But, you can't really keep up the pretense of like trying to make everything perfect all the time. And I think viewers are really going to love that, that they see it from that side of the venue. And
you've got a team of unique personalities working alongside you.
We do.
How would you describe the chemistry on the farm?
I would say the chemistry on the farm is like a family. I mean, everyone gets along really well. They fight hard. They love hard. I think going through the challenges of trying to execute all these weddings are bonding experiences. And I think because I'm so, I'll use the word difficult to work with sometimes, I think they all kind of bond in knowing that they have to all behave in a certain way to kind of do right by me and to execute these weddings in a way that we have to. We have to make these people happy. It's a lot of pressure. They've spent a lot of money on these weddings, and them leaving happy is the number one thing that I make happen.
At its core, what do you hope people take away from watching June Farms?
I hope they take away that they want to have their weddings there, that they want to come stay in the cabins there. And I hope that they see that the show really is about someone who cares about the farm and cares about the people who I work with, and that there's a lot of love there. And that I hope that they see that the challenges of trying to execute weddings are real, and that sometimes it's a perfect balance of chaos and love, and it's also a lot of fun.
I used to be a wedding DJ for many, many years, and I've seen.
Oh my gosh, I have so many questions. Yeah,
exactly.
I would say the wedding DJ, that probably makes or breaks the wedding the most. I mean, the music is like the most important, one of the most important things.
And beyond that, I always ended up being like the MC, making sure everything is flowing throughout the night. And I actually
didn't realize before having a wedding venue how much the DJ does.
Yeah.
There's a lot you guys have to do, like for dinner, something like during the ceremony. A lot of times, obviously the dancing, all the requests.
Absolutely. One of my favorite lines.
It's crazy.
Whenever I'm talking to a bride and they're setting up a wedding or something, I always say, "Who is your J-Lo?" That is the question I use forever. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, the one person that I could turn to and not talking to you to get everything back together if need be. So who is your side one person? Who is your
great
J-Lo?
question.
That's the great question.
I'm going to start using that.
You use it. Please do.
Yeah.
Okay. And for anybody that wants to see more or even plan a visit, where can they go for more information?
Prime Video.
You can watch all episodes of June Farms now streaming on Prime Video. I want to thank you for joining me today, Matt.
Thank you for having me, Dan. It's been my pleasure.
Have you ever watched a true crime show and wondered, where's the line between justice and entertainment? There's a new documentary called Predators that takes a hard look at Dateline's To Catch a Predator and the world that grew around it. Emmy and Peabody award-winning director David Osit is pulling back the curtain on the show's legacy and what it says about us as viewers. David, I want to thank you for being here, my friend. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Okay, for people who only remember To Catch a Predator as a big TV moment, how do you describe what Predators is really about?
My film is really unpacking the legacy of this show, which was this segment on Dateline NBC in the 2000s that would set up a hidden camera in a sting house where men who were having online chats of a sexual nature with decoys who were pretending to be minors would then show up to a house, meet the decoys, then meet a journalist named Chris Hansen. He'd then interview them. Being filmed by hidden cameras, tell them that they were being filmed on a TV show, that they were free to go, but then they'd be arrested by law enforcement. This happened hundreds of times. The show was a sensation. And we really weren't very critical about what was happening when this was airing because we'd never seen anything like it before. This existed on the internet back when everyone was fluent in the internet, but before social media. So we really were just exploring this new phenomenon as far as we were concerned. At the time of just, wow, the internet's a scary place. And we found a way to enjoy this news program. Now, I think that what happened then is that we created a template for modern true crime, which is that you have journalism and law enforcement working together to create some type of entertainment. And that's really one of the legacies of To Catch a Predator.
So when you started digging into the story, what surprised you most about how the show actually worked behind the scenes?
I think when I started to really understand one particular element of the show, it sort of stood out to me, which is that these men were already able to be charged with a crime before they ever showed up to the sting house. The crime is online solicitation of a minor, but then they show up at the house and they could be arrested right then and there, but instead they're interviewed by a journalist who's not telling them who he is necessarily, and then they're filmed and then they're told they're free to go and then they're arrested. So all of that part, that middle part is kind of theater and it's all for us to watch at home. So when I started to think about that, I started to realize, well, there's a huge component of this that's really just entertainment. And it's not the first time in the world where you reach people and give people something to watch, and then that moves the needle on a national conversation. But how does that then shift into maybe potentially that kind of entertainment becoming used more flippantly, more randomly, and disregarding potentially the human cost of what that entertainment creates? Those are some of the questions I liked to get into when I made the film.
And the film really leans into some ethical gray areas. You got the stings, the cameras, the way audience reacted. What are some of the biggest questions that you wanted viewers to wrestle with when they watch this?
To be completely honest with you, one thing I'm really eager for viewers to wrestle with in terms of questions is actually just how they feel watching the show. Or my show, rather. I'm a documentary filmmaker. I'm also asking people to consider certain things about what do I do for a living? What do all of us do for a living when we're telling people's stories? There's some things in my film that are hard to watch. There's some things in my film that I think will make you laugh. There's a big journey in this story because I'm asking you to consider kind of what your own line is of where you'll draw the line between whether something is too much about entertainment or whether something's good intentions justify it being entertaining. And we don't have answers to that. Everyone has their own answer to that question. We all kind of have our own line in the sand about what we think. It's actually more like a line in asphalt because it really is hard to change how we feel about whether something is right or wrong. And we don't like it when people try to change it for us, I've noticed in society. So my film's kind of about asking those questions and asking you, how do you feel when you watch some of this material? How does it make you feel?
And you talked to some former decoys, the host, and people who were directly affected by the show. Was there a particular interview or moment that changed the way you saw this whole phenomenon?
Not one particular interview or moment, although I spent time talking to Chris Henson in the film and many of the decoys who were involved in the story. All of it was very interesting and compelling to me, and in part made me think again about, well, I'm, for example, asking some people in the film to recollect some pretty hard moments. There was an incident of a man in Texas who took his own life when the camera crews and the police came to his house to arrest him for the sting. For To Catch a Predator, and I interviewed some people who were involved with that story, and I asked them to bring up, some hard memories. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, like I hope I'm not traumatizing these people. But again, those are the kind of questions that I think you only start asking when you're thinking about what are the ethics of making stories out of people's lives. Documentaries have been doing that for years. True crime's been doing that for years. But this film's really not just about To Catch a Predator, but it's about the ethics of how we tell stories.
And as you were saying, that true crime is bigger than ever right now. After making Predators, how do you hope people think differently about the shows and content that they are choosing to watch and their role as an audience?
Not to sound like a broken record, but I don't want to tell people specifically what I want them to think, because that's our problem, I think, in our society, is that we've got a lot of people telling you all the time what you should think about something. And I just want you to go on a journey with this movie. I designed it so that it challenges the way you feel at all times about what you're watching and looking at. And there's going to be times when you're uncomfortable, and there's going to be times when the person sitting next to you, who you thought was your BFF, might be making you uncomfortable because they disagree with you or you disagree with them. But I think that is the hard thing about being a human being, is that sometimes we disagree with each other. It doesn't mean we are wrong. It means we're just complicated. And this is a show about trying to take complication away. There's good guys and bad guys. And I do think the world is more complicated than that. It's not about defending child predators, not about making you feel bad for them. It's about asking you to consider, how do we treat people?
David, I want to thank you for joining me today. Predators is now streaming on Paramount Plus, so if you remember To Catch a Predator or just want a smarter take on true crime, this is one to check out. David Osit, thank you so much once again for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
The Housemaid is one of those thrillers where everything looks perfect on the surface, but then it just slowly unravels. It's based on the best-selling novel that stars Sydney Sweeney and Amanda Seyfried in a story filled with secrets, power, and unexpected twists. Behind the camera is director Paul Feig, bringing his signature style to a dark, psychological ride that keeps audiences guessing. Paul, it's great to have you here with us. How are you, my friend?
Dan, I'm great. On a Monday morning, I've never been better.
All right, so this story pulls people in fast and keeps kind of flipping expectations. What was it about The Housemaid that made you want to tell this story on the screen?
Well, I mean, the book is so good. The source material is there, and I'm always looking for, especially in the thriller genre, ones that have just big twists and turns that you don't see coming. And then once you get one twist, you get another twist, and then you get another twist. And, Frida McFadden's book is just so good. There's a reason it's been on the bestseller list for 2 years now. And so it just seemed like it was just too delicious to not bring to the big screen.
And you've kind of described this movie as almost a Nancy Meyers movie gone wrong.
Yes.
How did that idea shape the look and the tone of this film?
Well, I mean, exactly what it sounds like. I wanted Millie, the character of Millie, which is played by Sydney Sweeney, to come into this world that just on the outside looks like the perfect situation. The house is all cream colored and beautiful, and everything is perfectly ordered. And it feels like for a girl who was living in her car just, at the time, to come into this situation would be fantastic. Because it's a real, the whole book is really a statement about are we making judgments on just facades, and should we dig a little deeper? You don't want to distrust everybody, but at the same time, there's a lot of con people out there these days. So you want to delve a little deeper before you give the stamp of approval to anybody.
And the power dynamics in the story are just constantly shifting. How did you approach keeping the audience guessing on, I guess, who to trust?
Yeah, well, I mean, we had to kind of really hide things. So, because there's such big turns, and we kind of make you root for things that later on you'll find out you probably shouldn't be rooting for. And it was just really getting my cast, who are so amazing, to just play very real into these things so that you don't see what lies beneath any of them, because everyone's got a really big secret.
And Sydney Sweeney, Amanda Seyfried, they both play characters with a lot of going on beneath the surface. What stood out to you about the performances as pretty much everything starts to unravel?
Well, I mean, just the pivot that they made. Sydney had to kind of play very, kind of naive and innocent until you kind of find out her backstory. And then with Amanda, we just had a blast kind of letting her just be sort of all over the place because, Nina, that character that she plays, is very unpredictable and it keeps Millie off her game. So that was really fun. And then Brandon Sklenar playing the perfect husband. He just is wonderful. And you know him from other movies where he plays this guy. But then, to get to play with that was fun too. But no spoilers.
Oh, of course. This movie feels like it's kind of designed to be a social watch, like either with an audience or with a group of friends. Why do you think that's important for the story?
Oh, well, first of all, movies, we need people back in movie theaters. It's fun to watch a movie by yourself on streaming, but there's nothing like that group experience. And what we've been finding with this movie is people are going in there with groups. And I mean, I've sat in the million audiences now with this movie and they're cheering and they're screaming and they're talking back to the screen and they're just having a great time. It's very interactive. And I think with a movie like this, with all these twists and turns, because I'm a comedy guy, I've done Bridesmaids and all these things. Everything I do is engineered to get a vocal response out of an audience. So if you're there with your friends, you're just going to have a great time just looking at each other and saying, "Oh my gosh," and and talking to the screen and just going nuts.
Paul Feig, I'm a super fan, and you are a hero to me. The Housemaid is now playing in theaters nationwide. If you're in the mood for a smart, twisty thriller that keeps the surprises coming, this one is worth seeing on the big screen. Paul, I want to thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you so much. And everybody, please go. You're going to have a great time.
All right, it is bowl season, and you've got college football. Louisville and Toledo mixed with Keegan-Michael Key and unexpected bean spectacle. So somehow it all works. And honestly, it's just fun. Let's take a look.
The first ever Bush's Boca Raton Bowl of Beans was a simmering success. The first 2,000 fans who brought a can of Bush's beans to the stadium traded it for free entry into the game's MV Bean section, with every can donated to support local families in need. Actor and maestro Keegan-Michael Key says beans and football make a great game day pair.
There's this kind of warm family traditional feeling about this particular company, about Bush's, and it's part of why they wanted to identify themselves with a bowl game, because it's another very traditional warm thing, especially in December, right? They went above and beyond in regard to branding and being a sponsor.
Fans enjoyed a pregame bean bash, and during the game, fans sported Bush's beans all over bucket hats, turning the stadium into a literal bowl of beans. And waiting for the victor, a trophy full of slow-simmered baked beans to share in celebration. Congrats to the Louisville Cardinals. Find recipes and more online at bushesbeans.com.
And that's it for the show we like to call Rise and Unwind. I want to thank you for tuning in for the beginning of the year 2026. Happy New Year to all of you. Hopefully you had some great holidays, and now we're going to be looking into the new year, and I'm excited to be part of that with you guys. So tune in each and every week. If you like the show, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. Also, follow our YouTube channel. That's at Rise Unwind. Make sure you like, you comment, you share. All of the same stuff that YouTubers say kind of helps us too. So we're here to, show you cool things each and every week. So maybe help us out. And if you like the show, if you don't like the show, don't bother. It's okay. And until next week, that was the show we like to call Rise and Unwind.